It was the first day of the new semester at Westfield University, a prestigious school known for its rigorous academics. Among the students enrolling in advanced calculus was none other than Barron Trump, the youngest son of former President Donald Trump. Despite being only 18, Barron had already earned a reputation as a math prodigy, boasting an IQ of 170, a score placing him among the top intellectual minds in the world. However, not everyone was excited about his presence. Professor Linda Caldwell, an outspoken liberal and tenured faculty member, had made it very clear in past interviews that she disliked the Trump family. She believed their success was due to privilege rather than talent. And when she saw Barron Trump's name on her class roster, she couldn't resist the opportunity to make an example out of him. That morning, as the students settled into their seats, Professor Caldwell walked in with an air of confidence. She adjusted her glasses, set down her coffee, and scanned the room. When she spotted Barron sitting near the middle, calmly reviewing his notebook, a smirk crossed her face. Professor Caldwell. Well, looks like we have a celebrity in our midst. Mr. Trump, I wasn't aware you had an interest in mathematics. I assumed your family only cared about money and power. A few students chuckled uncomfortably, but Barron remained unfazed. He simply closed his notebook and looked up at her, his face calm and composed. Barron. Good morning, Professor. I do have an interest in math, a deep one, actually. The professor scoffed and crossed her arms. Professor Caldwell. Oh, is that so? Well, let's put that to the test, shall we? I wouldn't want you to skate by on your last name instead of actual merit. She turned to the whiteboard and scribbled out a seemingly impossible calculus equation, one that was typically reserved for PhD-level mathematicians. She put the marker down and turned back to Barron with a smug expression. Professor Caldwell. Since you're so interested in math, why don't you solve this for the class? Or should we call one of your father's advisors for help? A murmur spread across the room. The problem she had written was well known among mathematicians as impossible to solve using elementary methods. Most students had no idea where to even begin. They expected Barron to hesitate, stammer, or perhaps refuse. But instead, he smiled. Barron calmly stood up, walked over to the whiteboard, and examined the equation for a brief moment. Then, without breaking a sweat, he picked up the marker and started writing. Barron. This is known as the Dirichlet integral. The easiest way to evaluate it is by using Fourier analysis. The room fell silent. Even the students who weren't math experts could tell he knew exactly what he was doing. His handwriting was smooth, his logic clear, his movements precise. As he continued to break down the integral using complex analysis, the students started whispering among themselves. Even the TA, who had been grading assignments in the corner, looked up in shock. Barron. By applying contour integration in the complex plane, we can determine that the solution to this integral is pi/2. With a final stroke of the marker, he boxed the correct answer and stepped back. Silence. Then, an eruption of applause. Some students gasped, others looked at one another in disbelief. One even stood up and clapped. Professor Caldwell's smug expression had vanished. Her face turned pale as she stared at the board. She opened her mouth, as if trying to say something, but no words came out. Finally, she cleared her throat. Professor Caldwell. Well, that was impressive. I suppose you must have seen that problem before. Barron simply shrugged. Barron. No, but I've worked with similar ones before. Mathematics has always been a passion of mine. The professor didn't respond. She quickly turned around and erased the problem off the board, clearly flustered. After class, students rushed up to Barron, asking him about his studies, his favorite math problems, and how he got so good. Even students who had never liked his father seemed genuinely in awe of his intelligence. One of them, Josh, a senior majoring in physics, shook his head in disbelief. Josh. Dude, you're like a legit genius. I've never seen someone solve a problem like that so effortlessly. Barron. Thanks, man. I just really love numbers. Meanwhile, Professor Caldwell slipped out of the room without a word. Later that day, rumors about what had happened spread across campus. The student newspaper even wrote about it, calling it, "The Day Barron Trump Silenced the Haters." And by the end of the semester, something unexpected happened. Professor Caldwell, who had always been cold and dismissive toward Barron, called him into her office. "Professor Caldwell. I misjudged you, Barron. I let my personal opinions cloud my judgment. But the truth is, you're one of the most brilliant students I've ever had." Barron didn't gloat. He didn't smirk. He simply nodded. "Barron. I appreciate that, Professor. Maybe next time, we can let intelligence speak for itself, rather than assumptions." She gave a small smile. "Professor Caldwell. That's fair." And with that, Barron Trump walked out of her office, not just as a math genius, but as a young man who had earned the respect of an entire university. Moral of the story is that never judge someone based on preconceived notions. True intelligence and character will always shine through, no matter what others assume about you. Barron Trump proved that day that he wasn't just a last name. He was a brilliant mind with a bright future ahead.